So a couple of things just right out of the gate, just a couple of like disclaimers and stuff. First of all, I'm trying to and hoping to have a Q&A time at the end. I'm sure I'll probably have enough time because I'll probably just fly through this out of sheer nervousness. But so if you have any questions, I definitely would love to field any and every question. And so if you think of any, please just hold on to them to the end and we can write them down. And I know that's also going to be our final time at the end. The final panel will be a just Q&A as well, so you can save them for that time as well if you'd like. Another disclaimer is so the audience that I had in mind for this panel is a parent. And so I know he just told like every teenager to come into here, and I'm like, okay, well, this is not exactly who I planned for. But I do fully believe that for any teenagers that are in here, any children, I do believe that there is a lot of benefit that you can get from this as well. But just know that I am really speaking more towards parents. So that is kind of where I've geared this towards, is for, as a parent, how to build healthy relationships with our kids and social media. How to build healthy relationships with social media for our kids, but also how to do that in a healthy way with our kids. And how can we do that in a loving way? And in an effective way. So kind of just a little bit to start. I'll go ahead and start with that. Hi, my name is Caleb. I am married. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is my wife and son from his 2-year birthday party. He is about everything construction. He just absolutely loves all the backhoes and skid steers. He taught me that word at 2. And this is my wife, Chandler, and my son's name was Judah. They are absolutely everything to me. I am a licensed associate, if I can speak, I'm a licensed associate counselor. So I'm a therapist through the Guidance Center. I work in Van Buren currently. I've been there since last May, and right now I work with all ages. I work with kindergartners all the way to people in their 90s. I don't actually have anybody like that in my caseload, but I work with everybody. And prior to that, when I graduated in 2021, and for 2 years after I graduated, I worked at the Cedarville School District. So while I was at the school district, I did all ages there as well, kindergarten to 12th grade, and spent 2 years really working with and getting to see the way that social media interacts and impacts us, even at those ages. And in that time, in my time of being a therapist, I've worked with so many families. The stuff that we've been talking about today, I mean, it is absolutely an issue across every population, every demographic. I've worked with so many people that we have so many issues and concerns about social media, about its use, about how do I put in any kind of boundaries. Do I have boundaries? I mean, just kind of to like put this out there of why it's a concern. I've worked with, just in these past couple of years, I have worked with a first grader who was addicted to pornography. I have worked with a high schooler who got in trouble at the federal level for things that he did with people he met through the app Discord. I mean, there is a serious problem, and this is in the River Valley. Like, this isn't just people out there. In the River Valley, we have these kind of levels of issues with social media. And so it is a big problem. But as for our goals for today, the biggest goal is, like I said, to discuss social media, the ways it can be useful, the ways it can be harmful. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. There is this quote by Dallas Willard that I love so much about feelings, and I use this a lot with my clients. He says that feelings are good servants, but they are disastrous masters. I think social media is the exact same way. I think social media can be a great servant. It can be a really good thing, but it is a disastrous master. It is a disastrous master. And this is the goal, to make sure that social media serves us and doesn't control us. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. We want to make sure that we are in charge of it and not that it is in charge of us. And that really is that simple. And really, as a parent, that's the goal for our children. The goal for our children is to be able to make sure that they are completely in charge and control of every single thing they do, every single thing they're looking at, every single friend that they're with. Like, we want to just make sure that they are being who they want to be and not who social media convinces them they should be, not who their friends think they should be, not even who we think they should be, but that they're being who they believe and think that they should be. And so moving on a little bit, yeah, so my next point was that basically social media is here to stay whether we want it to be or not. Another reason that this is important is that it's not going away. And why even have this conversation is simply because as much as we could like maybe put our head in the sand and say, no social media at all, you never get it from the time that you're born till 18, you don't get allowed to have it. The day that they turn 18, they're gonna go download social media. And that's to be expected. And so like, I'm not upset or just disgruntled by students when they do that. But it is to say, as a parent then, if that's where they're going, like if they are going, because social media is such a huge part of our world, if that's gonna be where they end up, how can I guide them there in a way that sets them up for success? How can I help them get there in a way that they can use it in a healthy way, in a loving way, in a way that encourages them and lifts them up and builds them up? And so that really is a lot of what we are going to talk about today. There is so much good that can come from social media. I just wanted to hit on a little bit of the fact that there is a lot of benefit at an event like this, where there really is, like he used the analogy earlier of the fire hydrant. There really is so much information coming your way, and we're just kind of hoping to see what sticks from where you leave. But there's a lot that you might take away to just think like, wow, why do I even let them use this at all? Like, I don't even know, I'm scared to do it. Let's just take it away altogether, like I mentioned earlier. And there really is so much good that can come from it. For teenagers, social media can help them create online identities, communicate with others, and build social networks. These networks can provide teens with valuable support, especially helping those who experience exclusion or have disabilities or chronic illnesses. There's an incredible community that can be built online for people that you didn't think there was anybody else in the world like you. I mean, it's truly amazing the way that we can connect with people from all walks of the world to say like, wow, there's somebody who's like me, who's going through the stuff that I'm going through. And that's a good thing. That's a good use of social media. Personally, I self-identify as a nerd. I absolutely love Star Wars. I love Marvel. I love stuff like that. I have a couple of friends that I've met through Star Wars podcasts, and I've like flown out and hung out with them. And like, I have legit friends that are just from social media in that regard. It's a wonderful thing. It can add a lot of value. Teens can use social media for entertainment and self-expression. In so many ways, social media allows them to kind of just figure out who they are as a person. So I've been using Snapchat since it was released. It was actually released while I was in my undergrad about a decade ago. And I use it because I love the filters. I love just all the different ways you can try on different stuff. I'm really partial to like anyone that can give me hair. I love that. And so just like you can try on those things and those filters, social media allows us to kind of just try on different personality things, to try on different aspects of like, is this the kind of person that I want to be? Is this the kind of person I'm going to be? We can try that on for a little bit and create that in an online identity. Social media is humorous and distracting. It can provide meaningful connection to our peers in a wide social network that research says may even help teens avoid depression. You know, there's so much research, and we'll get into the numbers later, about depression and anxiety from social media. But there's ways and times that social media helps them avoid that because it can provide an incredible joke, an incredible distraction, or something really funny. It can also be an incredible way to learn things. I am not ashamed to talk about how much stuff I have learned from TikTok. I watch TikTok all the time. I've had to put a lot of limitations on myself to keep it from really becoming a problem. But there are so many things that I even use in counseling that I think my clients would laugh in my face if they knew I learned that from TikTok. But like one of them is the acronym CIA. I use this all the time. It stands for control what you can, influence what you can, and accept what you can't. I use that all the time with clients to work on like managing anxiety. It's an incredible acronym. And I got that from TikTok. But I also think what that does though is it speaks to the medium that social media is. Like there is nothing inherently wrong about Facebook It's the content that you get on there. There's nothing inherently wrong about TikTok. It's the content that you take in on there. These mediums are just vehicles for connection. They're vehicles for information. They're vehicles for getting you to those things. And so one of the things that we can do in a healthy way, like I said, is to teach our kids how to discern, to say, okay, how is that? Is this good? Is this helpful? Is it true? These are all incredible things that we can teach our kids to learn through social media. Like, so when I see something like that CIA acronym on TikTok, when I see that, I know that that's good because I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, I have a couple of years under my belt of working with this stuff. I know, oh, that's good. And teenagers don't necessarily have that experience so much because, I mean, if we're looking at like a 13-year-old, they've only been alive for 13 years. They've only been able to talk for maybe 10 of that. Like there's just some things that life hasn't taught them yet, and that's not like a problem to them. They just haven't necessarily learned and experienced the things that help us know what's true and what's not. They haven't experienced the things that help us know, oh, this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. And so that's the kind of ways that we can just kind of help guide them as they use social media is to say, well, that's just not even true. Or why do you trust that? Or why do you think that would be something that you should post? Or just because someone else posted a picture of themselves in a bikini doesn't mean that I should. Like no one wants to see that. I will lose followers in a heartbeat. But social media can also help teenagers expand their worldviews. It can help expose them to cultures and areas of the world that they may never visit, that they may never get to see in real life, but they're able to experience that on an app. They're able to experience that and see what these cultures are like or what other people are going through. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. And I wanted to take that time to talk about the goods of social media because it is so easy to get swallowed up in the bad. It really is so easy to just sit back and say, why even let them use this stuff to begin with? And all of that's the reason why. Those connection pieces, those identity pieces, the awareness, the information, the abilities that they can learn, the things that they can do. The sky's the limit with social media. But there is a lot of harm. And so some of the harm that I wanted to kind of go into for a little bit. Talking about the positives, I was talking about exposure and being exposed to those kind of things. And exposure is one of the greatest harms. There is just so little control that we have over what teenagers get to see in these apps with social media. The way that these apps are designed, they are designed in a way that even though you follow specific people or you like certain pages or you do whatever, that they're going to suggest content for you all the time. And they're all the time trying to find ways to help you stay in the app longer. And Gene, your session was incredibly brilliant. I loved watching that. And there's so much great overlap here. But I just wanted to touch on a little bit. There's a documentary that came out a couple years ago that I highly recommend. It's called The Social Dilemma. And they interview people that actually created these apps. They interview the developers, they interview the creators, they interview these guys that say, hey, this is how that app is designed, and we intentionally did that. And some of the things that came out from that were just some wonderful things. So, go ahead and go to the next slide. This quote, there are only two industries who label their customers users, illegal drugs and software. And what this documentary goes into is how these apps are designed to keep us in them because that's how they get the revenue from ads. And that's all they care about. And now you can get into a lot of other conspiracy theories. There's a lot of things you can find in those apps, ironically. But I truly believe that they don't really care. They don't really care about what we end up and go do, aside from buying more things. They don't really care how we vote. They don't really care about any of that. What they care about is that we stay in their app. And so they will give us content that through their algorithms, through their metrics, they will give us the content that we interact with the most. And so that can be an incredibly good thing. I don't know about y'all, but I've certainly learned a lot of golfing videos. I liked one and I commented on one because it helped me learn something else on the range. Next thing, when I open the app, I get more and more and more, because they're like, ooh, you, not only did you like that one, you commented on that one, or you shared that one, or you followed that page after this, so let's give them more and more and more. And that can be incredibly good. I need so much help with my golf game. It's bad. That can also be incredibly destructive, because what if the content that I'm interacting with, what if that content is not good? What if that content is pornographic? What if that content is very harmful? What if it is messages about women or girls, or what if it's messages about other people that are very destructive and very abusive? If I get more and more and more of that, that's going to shape the way that I think. That's going to shape my worldview. And that can be so destructive. The actual way that these apps are designed, so this was an incredible thing, once again, from the documentary. They talk about how these apps are designed in a lot of ways like the slot machines at the casino. Like if you get on Facebook and you pull it down to refresh, and you pull it down to refresh, and you pull it down to refresh, for our dopamine in our mind, it's like, ooh, what's the new thing that I haven't seen yet? Ooh, let's keep going, I need more, I haven't seen this yet. I want to see if anybody else has posted about something. Anxiety can start to creep in. Because, ooh, I know that this event's happening tonight. I need to see what people are posting about it. I need to see if anybody's posted about me. I need to refresh. And that's very intentionally, like they say in that documentary, that is very intentionally designed like a slot machine in its function and in its appearance. There's so much research that you could go into about our dopamine and how just from liking something and getting likes from other people, how much that's little deposits of dopamine every single time. And that keeps us coming back for more and more and more. If I didn't ever get likes on posts, would I ever post something? We post stuff intentionally for likes. Because in a way, that's just affirmation that it got seen. In a way, that's just affirmation that it actually did get posted and it's out there. If I post something and I don't get a like, I'm checking my feed, I'm checking my wife's feed. I'm like, did this actually get posted? Like, why is no one liking this? And when you multiply that times 1,000, by 1 million, by a couple million, that turns into people changing everything about themselves based on what gets more likes, what gets more people to engage. That can be very destructive. Not to mention just specifically the content that they are receiving and interacting with just from their friends. The amount of cyberbullying that you could be exposed to. During adolescent development, brain regions associated with the desire for attention, feedback, and reinforcement from peers become more sensitive. So I want to say this again. What's being increased at adolescent development is attention, feedback, and reinforcement. My need from that. That's natural. That is perfectly fine and normal. I mean, I think the common thing I hear parents say all the time is, oh, they're just wanting attention. Yeah, and that's developmentally appropriate. That's okay. That is increased at this time. However, a negative can be that at the same time, the brain regions involved in self-control have not fully matured. So can you imagine how disastrous of a combo this is? Where I need more attention, but I have no self-control. Where I need more feedback from my peers, but I have no impulsivity control. Where I need more reinforcement from my peers, but I have really no governor to know what's a good thing or a bad thing, because I'm just going to do it and learn about it and learn from it. Or I'm not even going to learn from it. It's amazing. It's actually amazing how many teenagers I work with that they will make just bad decisions and then come back and be like, I don't know what happened. And I'm like, oh, man, I wonder what would have happened if you did something different there. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. There's this wonderful quote from L.R. Nost, a psychologist, who says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words shatter souls." The content that teenagers read daily, that they spend so much time interacting with, it matters. If I post a picture that I was already kind of halfway not liking, or just fully didn't like, but I wanted to post something from this event, and then someone makes a comment making fun of me, that can shatter my soul. If I get on and see somebody bullying somebody else but I actually fall into the camp of that other person, I feel like I've been attacked. That can shatter my soul. These are the reasons why anxiety and depression are skyrocketing for kids, is because when we're trying to develop our identity and we have all these other people speaking over us, and we don't have any kind of governor, we don't have any kind of ability to say, that's not true. Or we don't have any other beliefs to counteract it and say, what that person said about me is not true because I know who I am. My parents have been telling me all my life. You know, if we don't have that kind of foundation, then when they see those things, they believe, well, that must be true. I worked with a client in my internship, actually. I worked with a client who all of his life, and I'm talking his dad, his friends, and then especially bullies, every single one of them told him that he was gay. Every single one of them. And they wouldn't let him forget it, his dad especially. Just saying, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay. And the struggle that he had so much because he wasn't. He wasn't attracted to men. He was attracted to women. And this is the words that came out of his mouth. But they kept telling me that I was. So I figured, well, let me just try it out and see if I am. Like, that's the kind of power that words can have. When I know at my core that that's not true. But if everybody else is saying that over me, well, maybe it is. That's hard as an adult, if I was to be hearing that. And especially for kids, especially for teenagers, especially for our children. And that can be just so disastrous. Another thing that is very problematic is that social media is so often an unrealistic view of reality. So going back to the theme of reality check. What is even true on social media? Do any of you post the worst moments of your life? Do you post the version of yourself in the morning that would scare a troll? No, you don't post that. You post yourself with the best angle, with the best lighting. Oh, where's this lighting? Hit me perfect at. Everything is so staged. But if all I'm seeing is staged, then I think that's real, and I think that's true. And so what I want to go ahead and show you is, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is a picture I took the other day during this snowstorm, the snowpocalypse of 2024. Now, anything and everything with a toddler is just an absolute disaster. Like, they are disastrous. If you were to zoom in on this photo, he's got a wonderful smile on him. To be sure, this is the photo I posted. This is the photo I edited. I had to edit this to make sure that you could see the snow popping just right, that the faces were clear, all this kind of stuff. This actually isn't the full photo that I posted. I zoomed it in just so you could see the faces a little bit better. But it was beautiful, beautiful photo. Now go ahead and go to the next photo, because this is reality right here. This is what it's like to do absolutely anything with a toddler about 90% of the time. Now, which one of these photos do you think got posted to social media? That's reality right here. This is what he looks like I said, 90% of the time. But I'm going to post that other one. And what's funny is that those who have had children know that that's reality, and we love those other photos. Because we know, as parents, that I will take 10 million moments like this just for the one time where my kid is smiling. It's so worth it. And we know that as parents. But let's say that you aren't a parent yet. Let's say that you're pregnant and you're expecting. And all you see are the other photos. Well, what do you think your reality about what your expectations for being a parent is going to be? You're going to expect that 100% of the time it's just giggles and laughs. Because we don't post pictures of the poopy diapers, the blowouts. One of my friends this morning had to leave a conversation we were having during church because it was like church wasn't happening at the time prior to the service starting. But they had to leave because their kid had a blowout. And apparently it got all over everything. We don't post about that. And so there's just a reality check that happens. And this is what we talk about when we talk about discernment. When we talk about our kids are seeing stuff that they don't realize that may be the only time that that person looked like that day. That maybe all they did was put on their makeup just to take that picture, and then they went back to the bed to watch Netflix. And also this is a wonderful side of social media to get on, but influencers in the wild, that's a wonderful place to be. You'll see videos like second angle views of families dancing at airports and how they look so happy and cheery, and then they hit their stop record button, and all of a sudden they're like angry at each other. But that's what gets posted to social media. So I wanted to go next into statistics, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Just to look at some facts about what students are actually using and doing on their phones, on social media. Now, these numbers are from Pew Research. This was as of January 5th of this year. These numbers are for last year, in 2023, how kids were spending their time on their phones. And I want you to look at specifically that, first of all, I feel like it's so common that I hear parents say, oh, all they're doing is just being on Bookface and being on Instagram and all these things. The reality is they actually spend most of the time on YouTube. And I can't tell you how many times that I've had students come to my office talking about the latest YouTube reel that they watched, or the latest streamer that they watched on YouTube. How they spend 4 hours watching somebody else play a video game, I don't personally understand that one. I would rather play the video game. But they do it. And side note, the best that I'm able to liken that to is like I listen to podcasts, and so I guess that's their version of a podcast, but it's beyond me. But so majority are using YouTube. And so what you're seeing on the right side of that is daily. Like this is 71% of teenagers using YouTube daily in some way, form, or fashion. What you're seeing in between there is that 16% are basically never off of YouTube. They're basically on YouTube the entire day. 38% are using it about once a day. Or actually, no, several times a day, 38%. So the majority in that base of YouTube, the majority are actually using YouTube it's just several times, just several times throughout the day. They're not on it all the time, but it's probably the main app that they're on. And so looking at the other things, you got TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and that really is kind of the majority. I mentioned Discord earlier. That's another app that is, I've had a lot of students that use. They will just connect with random people. I mean, truly random people they've never met before in their life. And they'll meet with them through Discord. So I show this just to say, like, if you feel like your kid is on their phone all day long, research would support that. If you feel like your kid is just unable to pull away from that, then yeah, you're probably right. And that's actually the norm. This is the norm. And it is very problematic because thanks to research, we've been able to study over the past couple of years just kind of where the thresholds are. How much time can you spend on YouTube without it affecting you? I think that's a great question. What does the research say? I don't know. A 2019 study of more than 6,500 12 to 15-year-olds found that those who spent more than 3 hours a day using social media may be at a heightened risk for mental health problems. So 3 hours, like, okay. I don't know about you, but I knocked over my water bottle. I don't know about you, but whenever I hear that, I hear 3 hours is kind of a lot. Like I can get an hour in the morning, 2 hours at night. That's not bad. But what they're saying is that, and I think this is the true testament, these things, like I said, inherently they're not bad. But the longer that I spend time in there, the more likely I am to come across stuff that is unhealthy for me. And chances are, if I'm spending all day on this, then it's probably affecting me in a super negative way. And it's probably causing me to shirk my responsibilities. It's probably causing me to not do my chores. It's probably causing me to avoid interaction in real life. Like, what's healthier for you? Real life interaction or online interaction? That's actually a trick question because the quality of interaction matters. But on its surface, you would say that the in-person is better. And if I'm spending all day on YouTube, or if I'm spending all day on social media, then I'm probably in a lot of trouble. Another study from the same year, 2019, this was of 12,000 13 to 16-year-olds, found that using social media more than just 3 times a day, so not even just a specific amount of time, but just more than 3, that predicted poorer mental health. That was the predictor of anxiety, depression, all these kind of issues. And so we have just a little bit of time left, and I did not leave enough time for Q&A, but we can hit that in the next section. We'll be having a Q&A panel, so any kind of questions y'all have, feel free to hit it up. The last thing that I want to cover is just simply, what do we do? What do we do about this? Because what does it even look like to have healthy boundaries, healthy limits, healthy anything? And so I totally recognize for the audience here that there's probably 3 different types of situations happening here. Situation number 1, they don't use social media whatsoever, never have touched it, and maybe that means they're only like 4 years old, because if they're older, I'm sure they have. But maybe you're at a spot where I have never let my kids have social media. Okay, that'd be situation 1. Number 2 is maybe they're on it all day. It's unlimited. I don't have any kind of boundaries. I don't have any kind of restrictions. They have unlimited access to social media. And then number 3 is just, yeah, we have some limits, we have some limitations, but I really don't know all the other things that are out there that they may be using, but we have some limitations. So I see that as probably the 3, and what I would say is, like, I want to speak to kind of all of those, because it's so hard to say, well, here's what you need to do. And the reality is that every family and system is going to look different. And honestly, if I could speak to this, maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't care that they're on their phones all day. Look, I'm not here to try to tell you what to do. The biggest thing I want to try to do is just make you aware of some of the pitfalls, some of the concerns, and help you be intentional about what you do want. And so what I often recommend, and this is what I'll start with, let's say that you have never let your kid have any kind of social media whatsoever. Here's what I recommend. And I mean not even having a phone. Like, let's start with just they don't have a phone whatsoever. I recommend not giving them a phone whatsoever until about 8th grade, middle school level. And then I recommend no social media on top of that until they are 16 years old or just junior year of high school. I often recommend to have about 2 years before they turn 18, a junior year of high school, senior year of high school, introduce social media at that point. Now, I could see it on some of the faces here where they were just like, hello, that's way too late. My kid had YouTube whenever he was 3 or whatever. My friend had this whenever they were that. And so this is the reason why I suggest that, is that the analogy I love so much is teaching a kid how to drive a car. Who in their right mind gives them a car like right whenever they're born? We don't put toddlers in the driver's seat. There's so many ways that you kind of slowly learn how to drive. You learn to drive actually through like riding a bike, through video games even. You learn to drive through, I don't know about y'all, my first car was a little Tykes. My first car was a little Tykes, little thing that I learned, here's how a steering wheel works. Go-karts taught me what happens if I hit somebody. In so many ways, providing these smaller little things to get them closer towards social media, like I said, starting with phone calls, starting with texting in middle school, these are the training wheels of social media. This is to say that I want my kid to have full access to this by the time that they're 18, but I'm not going to just dump it on them. I want to help them get there. And I want to start with just phone calls and text because I want to learn and want them to see how to do that in a healthy way. There's a certain way that we talk to people through text message. There's a certain way we talk to people over the phone. And I want to just start there to say, can you do that well? Can you do that well? Not to mention, developmentally, all that time, from the time that they're born till high school, that's already hard enough without social media. I'm not about to try and make it harder. And I'm especially not going to do that with any kind of restrictions or safeguards. I mean, I equivocate that to saying, like, let's put my 2-year-old son behind the steering wheel on the interstate and say, good luck. I would never do that as a parent. But how many times do we do that with our kids in social media? Like that, the interstate, and just putting someone out there for their first time to ever drive, the equivalent of that is to get a phone, download all these apps and say, have fun. Have fun. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Now, to speak to the people that maybe have done that, and that's where you're at, is they have full access to this stuff already. What do I do? And this is where I would really like to just kind of step aside and have a different conversation to encourage you. Identify what your desired outcome is. What is your desired outcome for your family's use of social media, for your family's use of technology? Figure out what that desired outcome is, and then work backwards. There's another slide, you can go ahead. I use this all the time with clients, the importance of smaller steps. If I make too many big changes, they're not gonna be sustainable. And there's so many ways that you could apply this. I personally love applying this with like exercise and nutrition and all that with clients. But if you'd make way too big of a change, you're not gonna be able to sustain it. If you already have unlimited social media and you try to just take it all away, good luck. I mean, good luck. Because I think something else I would encourage is to practice what you preach. And so if you're gonna take that away for your kids, take it away for yourself too. Model it for them how you want them to live with it. But I say all that to say, so the importance of these smaller steps is let's say your kid uses 10 hours of social media a day. Rather than just taking it all away, why don't we have a goal be 9? And if we hit that this week, let's go to 8. If we hit that this week, let's go to 7. Like why don't we slowly make these changes? Because the goal isn't to do it all at once and have it fail after 2 days. The goal is sustainable life change. And so that's why I use this example. I say, like I said, with desired outcome, is to say, every single family in here is going to look different. Every single family in here, and I encourage you not to compare. I really encourage you not to look at other people's lives. There's a wonderful quote that I love so much, which is just simply that we compare our behind-the-scenes reels to other people's highlight reels. Like, I know all the bad, the good, the ugly with me, but I'm comparing all of that to all of their best. Like, just don't even do that. It's a bad game to get into. And so figure out, what is my desired outcome? What do I want for my kids? Like, how much time do I want them to be using? And then let's just slowly be making steps towards that. Let's have the goal this week be, you get an hour less. And then we work more and work more and work more. But I really like using that analogy, like I said, of them learning how to drive, because that really is the best way to view this. We're trying to teach them how to use social media. We're trying to teach them that not everything you see is true. We're trying to teach them that, hey, this family posted they were having a wonderful time down in Cabo. Guarantee you they had a fight while they were trying to take that picture. Like, we're just trying to teach them the realities of life, the realities of using this stuff. And we're trying to do this in a loving way. I can't stress this enough for parents. I cannot stress this enough. You don't have to do these in a way that is so rude and callous to your kids' emotions. I can embrace that, you're not excited about me taking this away. You're not excited about me giving you less time on your phone. You're not excited about me giving you boundaries, period. Like, I get that. But this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Because I love you. And I often encourage this as well. This is a phrase from the Love and Logic Institute. I highly recommend anybody to check them out. But a phrase that I often encourage parents to use is, I love you too much to argue. I love you too much to argue. That let's say we try to put in these boundaries on cell phones and social media, and they really blow up and have a fight, which, side note, if you put in any kind of new thing in boundary, they're going to blow up, they're going to fight, and that's okay. Like, that's to be expected. But let's say we do that, and they want to argue it. Don't even engage that conversation unless your mind is open to being changed. Because if I engage that conversation, I'm subtly telling them that if you just say the right thing, I'll change my mind. And I don't want to communicate that. What I want to communicate is, this is what we're doing, and I love you too much to argue. And then they hit you with some other argument. I love you too much to argue. They say something, I love you too much to argue. I love you too much to argue. I love you too much to argue. Like, you can keep saying these things, and I'm just not going to engage with it because I've already said what we're doing, and I love you too much to argue. And so that's what I would recommend, just kind of like just such an entry level, like foundation of what do we even do? What are some of the problems? What are some of the concerns? And I know we're about to enter into a panel time, like a Q&A thing. I apologize for not speeding through that quicker. I talk to people one-on-one, and I listen as a counselor, so this is what happens when you give me a mic, and I'm actually able to talk. So, but if you would rather ask questions on a more one-on-one level, just come find me afterwards, or find me on social media, and we can connect in that way. So, thank you guys.